Hello, beautiful peeps, and welcome to another episode of Soberoso, the podcast where we invite guests and listeners to join us, sharing our passion for recovery. My name is Dora. I am a recovering alcoholic and an addict, and I am your host. Today we are going to be visiting a near and dear friend of mine in Ontario, Canada. And if you are just joining us now at Soberoso, we are dedicating the entire month of September to having all Canadian guests on the show. We are doing this because there is a motion in place. If you have not heard about this yet, there is a motion in place at our government level. It's called M40, and it is to designate the month of September across the entire country as Recovery Awareness Month every year. So again, that's already in place, and you can vote yes and help us get that bill passed and make this a reality. You can go to www.recoverymonthcanada.ca and vote yes to make this happen so we can raise awareness across the country every September every year. So, without further ado, let's take a trip to see my good friend Lyer. Hello, Lyer. Is that you?
It is me. Hello.
Hi. Oh my goodness. It's so good to have you on the show.
Thank you very much. It's exciting to be here.
Oh, Lyer. Well, I've been looking forward to this because you are going to become my call buddy, and the listeners out there are going to hear and get to know more about you. So I'm excited that we're finally at today.
Me too. Me too.
Okay, so first of all, we have some friends in common, and we've known each other for quite some time. So for a little icebreaker, why don't you tell us why sometimes you're called Lyer and sometimes you're called Michael? Let's get that right out of the way.
Sure. Well, the reason is I was born with my birth name is Michael, but when I was about 19, I hitchhiked across Canada with my friend Una, and we decided it would be safer for some reason to have aliases or nicknames. So I changed my name to Lyer, and then when I got to Vancouver, I thought, hey, I kind of like that, so I kind of kept it. And the people I met, I introduced myself to Lyer, and that's when I met you. And so basically my Vancouver people know me as Lyer, but other people in the world and the rest of Canada know me as Michael.
Okay, so did you make up that alias, or is that stemmed from something?
It's two things, actually, and I never get asked this. That's funny. Lyer is an ancient Irish god of the sea.
Ooh.
I was into Celtic mythology and stuff, and it's also, if you've seen the movie The Last Unicorn from the 80s, it's an animation. Prince Lyer was the prince's name, so I kind of like that too.
Oh, I thought all along that Lyer was your natural middle name.
No, my middle name is Ian.
Okay, wow. Well, I was wrong. I even learned something about you 20 years later.
Cool.
So anyway, so then you moved to Ontario and decided that you needed an alias and you went back to Michael?
Yeah, kind of. I just, I don't know. It just seemed to fall away somehow, I guess. And I just went back to Michael. I don't know. Vancouver was kind of a magical time. And when I left, I guess the magical name left as well, in a way. But in a good way. It's not bad. It's not sad. It's just that's what happened.
Interesting. So yeah, for any of you out there, now you know, if you know Lyer and I personally, a lot of people that are newer friends in his life know him as Michael. And when we're in the same room, I think there's some confusion because he's always been Lear to me, and there's no way I could start calling my friend that I've known of many years by a different name, so it often confuses people. So Lear is Lear to me and Michael to others. There you go.
It's fine with me.
Awesome. Okay, Lear, so do you mind telling us what your sobriety date is?
I don't mind at all.
Explicit content warning. This podcast deals with mature subject matter that may not be suitable for young children. It may contain profanity, talk of drugs, alcohol, sex, crime, and abuse. So please proceed with caution.
So my sobriety date from all substances is October the 3rd of last year, which is 2019.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, and what are you recovering from?
Alcohol. It's funny. Alcohol is one, and then I would say opioid painkillers is the second. My addiction was kind of broken into two stages somehow. I mean, it's all the same thing, but there were two like separate timelines in a way. They never really met.
Like two different parts of your life. First as an alcoholic and then as addicted to prescription drugs, I guess?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm still an alcoholic and an addict through all of it, but they just appeared very separately and never together really.
Your sobriety date is in October from all substances. So have you not been drinking for a longer period, or how does that work?
Yes. So my sobriety date from alcohol is actually 4 years ago. So that would be August the 6th. Yeah.
Wow. Good for you. Congratulations. That's
Well,
a long time.
Well, I guess it depends on how you look at it, but it feels good.
Awesome. Well, now I'm curious. So you didn't have a drink for 4 years, but all of your addictions, your unified sobriety date is just at about the 1 year term. So does that mean that after you quit drinking that you picked up the opioids, or how does that play into your story?
So, sort of. So the way that happened is, I'm not sure exactly where to start, but the way that happened is last summer I had heat stroke really badly. And I know people say all the time, oh, I have heat stroke, but it's usually not heat stroke, it's heat exhaustion. But I had heat stroke. I found out this after the fact when I went to my doctor, and I should have been hospitalized because I was having serious symptoms. My hands went all gray. I was my thoughts weren't working properly, like I couldn't speak properly, and I was in excruciating pain. Like all of my joints and muscles were like cramping and seizing up, and it was very bizarre. So I found out afterwards I should have gone to the hospital. But anyway, so the reason that what's relevant about that is I was taking Tylenol and Advil for all the pain, and it didn't touch it at all. So I went to the pharmacy and I got some Tylenol number ones, which have a small amount of codeine in it.
Okay.
And that was fine. I used them as prescribed. But then, as we all know, or well, maybe we all don't know, but as some of us know, it triggered my addiction, my disease of addiction all over again. So it was active in the background. At the end of September, I ended up taking some stronger pain medication that did not belong to me, that I had no business taking. And so that was basically a relapse. So that's why my date from all substances is for October. I didn't use them for very long, but I definitely was using them in addict sort of way mentality and stuff. So,
Right.
yeah.
Wow. Okay, so in your own experience, can you like educate me a bit about prescription drug use or opiate? What does opiate addiction mean? Is that a specific drug? Is that a prescription drug?
So it's a family of drugs. So
Okay.
opioids are derived from the root word or the root drug opium,
Mm,
like in ancient China. Well, this is the way it was explained to me. Maybe someone else will have a different take, but it's basically opium was one of the first painkillers, but you also can get high off of it. And opioids are a family of narcotics. So that would be like OxyContin and Percocet and codeine and morphine, and those kinds of things are all opioids or
okay.
opiates. So I yeah, that's how I understand it, anyways.
Okay, so that the way you're explaining it, that's all stuff that you would get prescribed from a doctor. That's like a prescription addiction. Is that correct?
Yeah, prescription addiction. Um, yeah, in a way, so I know we'll get into things further, but like alcohol, I battled for many years, and then I used drugs recreationally, street drugs, chemical and natural and stuff, all
Oh,
like
I
often.
know.
I know, I used those often and never had a problem. Like I could take it or leave it pretty much. I really could. Definitely not the story with alcohol, but the drugs were not a problem until um, um, I was about 33. I got into a car accident. My car was hit by another car, and as a result of that, long story short, I got a prescription for opioid painkillers, and
Right.
I got quickly addicted to those, probably because I believe that, I mean, being an alcoholic already, it wasn't a far stretch for me to get addicted to those.
Hmm.
So yeah, it that was a really eye-opening and terrible experience being addicted to those, because it started with one little prescription and it led into a huge downward spiral, let me tell you.
Well, thank you for that explanation. I've had several guests on here that say, they had an opioid addiction, and for me, yeah, I mean, I took a lot of street drugs. I smoked the real opium straight up. But as far as the prescription addiction, I guess that's not part of my story. So I'm
Mm,
always curious about, addiction is addiction, and it seems to come in many different forms. So thank you for going a little deeper into that explanation, Lear. I appreciate it.
of course.
So on a daily basis or in your day-to-day life, do you still think about drinking or drugging again?
Oh, no. No, not at all, actually. No,
Well,
and
that's incredible.
it is incredible, and it took quite a while to get to this point, so I don't take it for granted. But no, I have, as they say, in some places, I have lost the desire to drink or drug. Like it's the obsession is gone, and it's just gone. I don't fight it or anything.
Well, isn't
So
that fantastic?
it is, yeah.
That is a miracle in itself. And the obsession has left. The obsession to drink and drug has been lifted.
Yes, that's a good way of saying it.
Let's back it up then to your alcoholism that you said you struggled with.
Sure.
What were some of the behaviors or what was going on in your life at like your so-called rock bottom where you realized, hey, this is a problem? What was happening?
Well, hmm. Well, it's funny because a lot of it I could see at the time that um, there was a lot of destruction happening, mentally and emotionally, and like I didn't see that occurring in other people, but it was happening in me. But a lot of it, like I didn't even realize until after I got sober, and then looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, there's evidence right there and right there and right there that that's all alcoholism, but I couldn't see it at the time. But I don't know. I would say a lot of my um, alcoholism is woven with really self-destructive sexual behavior, I would say, is the best way to define it. Like some people, they get drunk and they might, I don't know, go rob a store, or they might, you know, take a motorcycle off a cliff and go joyriding. But mine, I would always, not always, but often I would find myself in dangerous or really, I don't know, gross sexual encounters, for lack of a better word. And yeah, it just made me feel like a piece of crap and embarrassed and like a disgusting, I would feel disgusted with myself. And yeah, that's part of it, I suppose.
Right. So that was a result of your drinking and drugging would take you to these shady places with shady people doing shady acts.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Definitely. Yeah, I mean, I think in a way it's kind of normal to, well, maybe it's not. I don't know. I thought it was normal in your 20s and stuff. You go out and you go drinking and you might hook up with somebody and have a one night stand. I think that's kind of in our culture
Mhm.
to a degree,
Mhm.
normal. But I would pick the worst of the worst, or I would,
Yep.
yeah, or I would put myself into a situation where it was just bad news and trouble.
I hear you. I
Yeah.
hear you. Looking back at my own story, which I'm still unraveling, the years of drinking and drugging and still starting to understand. And like you kind of mentioned earlier, once we get into recovery, it's the hindsight looking back where we can
Hmm.
now look back and go like, oh yeah, I was messed up like 10 years ago. I was messed up 15 years ago. But when you're in that addiction or in the alcoholism, you you don't see it at that time. I think hindsight is 2020. It teaches
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely remember like bad hangovers and being like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that last night, and like stuff like that. But then it started getting worse, and it didn't seem to be happening to that degree to my friends.
Right.
So I don't know. I had a friend of mine, Tanya, actually.
Mm-hmm.
She said, well, if all those things happen when you're drinking, then why don't you just not drink? Yeah, Tanya and I were living together, and she more than once saw me disheveled and demoralized in the morning after a night of drinking and behavior. And then we were driving back from Toronto one day from Niagara, and she said, well, if all this stuff happens when you're drinking, then why don't you just not drink? Maybe you should quit drinking. And I said, that's a really good idea. And then I
Hmm.
continued on drinking for many years.
Oh shit. You
Yeah,
weren't ready.
no, definitely
Wow.
not. Definitely not. I was trying to make it work.
Well, they say alcoholics and addicts, we are suffering from a disease and an illness that gets worse, never better. It progresses.
Yes, I would definitely agree with that, because it did. It went worse and worse and worse things would happen. And
So while it was getting worse, do you remember, were you trying to like control it in your own way? Like, if I don't drink this, maybe I won't behave that way. Were you trying to somehow control your behaviors by your drinking or drugging or?
um, I kind of I kind of thought if I thought about things and reflected and really tried to figure out the inner workings of my mind and figure out, what makes me tick and what makes the behaviors happen, then I would know what not to do next time when I would drink. And But the catch with that is that when you're drunk, you don't remember those things. You don't think of them.
Exactly.
So it really got me nowhere, actually. Like self-knowledge and personal insight, like all that really didn't work. As sincerely as I tried it, it did not work.
Okay, so that leads me to the question, what did work? How did you finally find help, or how did that all change?
Well, there's a bit of a darkness before I get into that, if that's all right.
Okay, of
Yeah.
course, bring it
Okay.
on.
Bring it on. Okay. Well, I was living in Mexico, actually, in Puerto Vallarta, and
Mhm.
uh, the time I was there, it started out great, fun, fantastic, wonderful. But then the alcoholism just progressed over the 2 years I was there, and by the end of it, I basically didn't have any friends, or the friends that I was with, I had lost touch with, and I was very much alone. I was still working, but I was often calling in sick, which meant either hungover or I needed to drink. Um, but it ended, I guess my bottom for alcoholism was broken up into a series of events that happened in the last little while that I was there. So I don't know how else to say it, so I'll just say it if that's all right. I One night I decided to get good and drunk and go to a place that I knew had a bad reputation, and I would never go there sober, don't you know? But it seemed like a really good idea at the time, and
Mhm.
I I ended up getting gang raped by a group of men,
Oh my
and
goodness.
yeah, and like I remember passing in and out of consciousness, and they were holding drugs under my nose during this. I'm not sure what it was. I think it was like poppers or something, but I really don't know because I was like blacking out and then coming to, and
Oh
yeah,
my goodness.
there's I think 5 or 6 or 7 of them, each taking their turn. So you can imagine the next day when I woke up, I felt I don't even know if there's a words I can use to describe how I felt. But
Oh, Lyer.
yeah, that was really horrible. And but I mean I kept on drinking after that because then the drinking was a really good way not to think about it, right?
Mhm.
I would drink to escape that. But I mean, looking at it objectively years later, like that's completely traumatic. I probably should have gone to see a counselor and a doctor and like gone for some sort of therapy, right? But I didn't because I was in a different country. I didn't know anyone, and I didn't. I don't know. I just kept drinking.
Mhm.
And there's also some other like dark, embarrassing sex capades that happen while drunk. Like I've gotten mugged more than once while drinking. Um, like jewelry ripped off of me and money stolen and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, that one just was not good at all. So um, one day I woke up in the morning, hungover and disheveled. It's kind of a blur. I don't think it was the morning after that incident, but it was around that time. I walked to the beach, and I know you've probably heard this part of it before, but I remember like looking around, and it was a beautiful, sunny, warm day in Mexico. There's street food cooking and tropical fruit and kids laughing and people walking around. And I walked to the beach, and I couldn't see any of it. I mean, I could see it, but I was not part of it. I was on the other side of the looking glass.
Mm.
And I went to the beach, looked up at this beautiful blue sky, and I filled my pockets up with rocks and walked out into the ocean to drown myself because I just couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't take me anymore, or my life, or being me. I don't know. But I walked right out into the ocean till the water like was right at my face. And then it's the funniest thing. I thought of my Oma, my grandmother, um, who has unconditionally loved me my whole life, and I just got this image of her so strong. It was rather a spiritual experience. Like I just felt her presence right there looking at me, like that she could see me as, like she remembered who I was before all this darkness and crap. Like she remembered who I was as a little boy, like my true self. She remembered it, and she could see me. And like me knowing that she remembered that, or that she could see me like that, I thought, I don't want to die. I want to be like how I was. I want to be that little boy. I want to be the person who I was when I was born, when I was innocent, before all the alcohol. And then I got out of the water.
Wow.
Yeah, clearly I'm talking to you right now, but yeah, that was those are just a couple of the really bad things that happened, I suppose. There's more, but
Oh my
yeah.
goodness, Lear. So after this experience of trying to drown yourself, you came out of the water. Was that your rock bottom? Did you drink again after that?
I did. I did, but that was my first um that's when I decided I needed help. So in a
Okay.
way that was very much a pivotal moment for me, because I went home and I got dried off, and I said, I need help. Something's got to change. And I don't know how I knew this, but for some reason, I picked up in my subconscious that I knew that there was uh, recovery programs at the old Cine Bahia. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, I do.
Right. Yeah, upstairs there was help there. And I really don't even know how I learned that. I just all of a sudden I'm like, I have to go there right now. And I walked across downtown, and I just like knocked on the door, and this woman answered, and I just like bursted into tears like a big snotty blubbery mess, blurting
Mm.
everything out all at once. And then she came out, and another girl came out, and they talked to me for a long time. And that was my, I guess, my first introduction into a recovery program of any type ever.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
my heart's breaking.
hmm,
Oh my goodness, Lear.
yeah. But I have a little a funny drinking story if you want to hear it.
Of course. Don't
If it's
ask
part of
permission,
it.
just keep talking.
Well, another time, I mean, it's obviously embarrassing because of the stupid things we do when we're drinking. But anyways, I decided, um, this is in Mexico still. I went out and got myself a little Mickey of brandy, because that's what I liked. I like to put on my um, headphones and my CD Walkman and walk around town with a good buzz on, and just like cruise around listening to music and getting drunk. And then I was pretty drunk, and then I thought, well, I'm pretty drunk, so there's only one option, and that's to get another bottle of brandy and get really drunk.
Hmm.
So I got really drunk, and I thought, I'm going to go down to the beach and go swimming. And it was about midnight, and there was no one on the beach, and it was a nice night, and the waves were kind of big. So I took off all my clothes, because, of course, you need to go skinny dipping in the moonlight.
Of
Um,
course.
of course. But I thought, oh my God, I can't just leave my CD Walkman here, because somebody will steal it. So in my drunken state, I thought it would be a really good idea to like dig a big hole in the sand and bury my CD Walkman, and they're full with like lasers and screens, and they're highly delicate. So I like buried it in the sand with a big stick on top, and I thought, okay, now, and then, you know what? I never found it again. And even if I did, it would be completely destroyed and filled with sand. But it seemed like a good idea at the time.
Of course. Drinking, thinking. Boy, we
Drink
come
and
up
think
with
it.
some good ones. Oh my goodness. So my head is going spinning around with questions. So I know when you were my roommate here in Mexico, that was many, many years ago. So obviously, when you found that recovery group all those years ago, that wasn't the end of your drinking. So what changed 4 years ago? What was happening 4 years ago in
Mm.
your life where you decided enough was enough and that you now haven't had a drink for 4 years?
Well, it's good question. So, in that time, I did have 3 years before, 3 years of sobriety.
Okay.
But then I was basically in and out of recovery. I would, get 3 years, and then I thought, well, it's been a while. I can probably drink safely now, and of course, that doesn't work like that. And then after that, it was 6 months, 2 months, 2 weeks, 8 months, like in and out, in and out, in and out. And then
Ladies and gentlemen, if you have always wanted to make your very own podcast, we encourage you to check out Anchor. If you have a message or a theme you would like to convey to the world, Anchor is an extremely easy to use application. It's user friendly and it's absolutely free. So check out Anchor and get started on your own podcast today. You are listening to Soberoso, a show dedicated to alcoholics, survivors of abuse, addicts, overcomers of great tragedies, and those of us with mental health issues too. At Soberoso, we celebrate many different roads to recovery and the journey many people have taken to turn their lives around. It doesn't matter if you are young, old, black, white, or rainbow. At Soberoso, we invite you to listen in as we have casual conversations with regular people like you and me who have, against all odds, turned their lives around and are now living happy, purposeful lives. So please join us now in sharing our passion for recovery.
but it never got as extreme as it did in Mexico. There wasn't as many repercussions or negative consequences, so I could kind of justify it because it was only kind of terrible, not terribly terrible. But then that's when I had that car accident and I got addicted to the painkillers. So then getting high off of opiates kind of replaced the alcohol because I really liked the feeling of getting high off the opiates and the euphoria that came with that. And I did not seem to do all the self-destructive things or have terrible things happen that happened with the alcohol. I could get hungover and be jonesing, and like the come down was horrid, but at least I didn't have those, awful events happen. Yeah. So somehow that made sense to me that it's still bad, but not as bad as the alcohol. So it kind of, they traded places. The alcohol fell to into the background, and I would still drink here and there. And it never turned out great, but it wasn't as terrible. But the opiates, the drugs, really came to the forefront.
Okay.
Sorry, that didn't really answer your question. It's all kind of coming together.
That's all right.
But to answer your question, and then if you want, we can talk more about the opiates. So what happened was I was living in Toronto, and I guess the two kind of came together, which they never really had before. So what happened was I was in desperate and dire need of finding some pills. I spent all day on city buses, doctor shopping, and trying to find a doctor who'd give me a prescription because I had burned all other venues by that point from behaviors. Anyways, I finally found a doctor who gave me something, and to celebrate, I bought some booze.
Okay.
And so crazy to think that made sense. Um, yeah, so I bought some booze and I got a really good buzz on, put on my bathing suit, went to the our apartment building had a swimming pool. It was a beautiful evening. I got pretty drunk and then found some more alcohol in the apartment that belonged to my roommate and started drinking that too. So I was really drunk, and then I decided to take the pills that I was given, which was a type of opioid I had never been prescribed before.
Okay.
And so I didn't really have experience with that. And I don't think, honest to God, I don't think I had mixed the pills and booze before because I knew that it had a reputation for, killing people and things like that. So I never mixed them. But that day I did. And I really don't remember that much, but I remember I went downtown, and of course, I got into a really shady situation, and I ended up, um, of course, in a harmful, destructive, embarrassing sexual situation, which mostly happens.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, it didn't go too far. Nothing really happened with that, but the potential was there. But I ended up getting escorted out of the building by security. And I don't even know how I got home. I don't remember. I think I was on the Toronto subway. Like, it took me 3 hours because I kept getting on the wrong subway because I was so drunk. I had no idea how to get
Mm.
home. And then I woke up and um, and the following Saturday, I put myself on a bus to St. Catharines, Ontario, which is my hometown, and I like got the Greyhound, and I went straight off the Greyhound, and I went to a meeting that I knew where there was a meeting at a church on
Mm-hmm.
Queenston Street, and I walked in the door, and there's a few people there I knew, and they said, "Hey, Michael, how's it going? I haven't seen you in a while." And I burst into tears, of course. And this lovely woman took me into the back room, and I cried and cried and cried, and we talked and talked and talked, and that was 4 years ago
Wow.
from the alcohol. Yeah.
Wow. Oh, the things we do to ourselves in addiction and alcoholism is, in the moment, our thinking is so obstructed and so insane. But when I
Right.
look back at the behaviors and the habits and the things we did to ourselves and the situations that we got into are just, they're
Oh yeah.
scary. Looking back, they're fucking scary.
That's right. That's a understatement. That's a
Oh,
fucking understatement.
oh my
Um,
goodness.
yeah. But may I touch on the opioids a little bit more?
Please do, and please stop asking permission like a
Oh, okay.
polite Canadian.
Well, I don't know if I'm breaking your format or something here.
Not
So,
at all.
okay. Well, I just like the opioids, like I said, they didn't cause the poignant destruction that the alcohol did, but it made me, I don't know how to explain it. It destroyed me on a heart level more. Like the alcohol, I feel like this makes sense in my own head. The alcohol was soul destroying to me because it
Hmm.
destroyed the essence of who I was or who I knew I was. But the alcohol or the opioids uh, was more of a heart destroying issue for me, and I mean that physically because it's bad for your heart, but it also like I did things that broke my own heart and broke other people's hearts. So, for example, I stole um, very much needed painkiller prescriptions from family members, from my
Hmm.
mother and from my grandmother. My mother had uh, really horrendous surgery, and she had painkillers for extreme pain, which she was in, and I stole them and took them. And then I got to deal with the consequences, which was seeing my mom crying in bed, holding herself because she was in so much pain, and she couldn't do anything about it because I
Oh,
had taken her pain pills, right? And 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 I said, Mom, like, I came clean, and I mean, she knew as well, but because this happened more than once with her and I, but yeah, that, and I said, just tell the doctors I stole them. I'll fess up. Just go get the damn pills. You need them. I don't even care if I don't know, go to jail or get arrested. Like, just go get the pills. I felt so bad. And she wouldn't do it. She wouldn't do it because, I don't know, she didn't want me to get in trouble. Yet she was there, like, rocking in pain. So that was horrible to do that to someone I love, And,
Mm-hmm.
and I also did that to my Oma, the very Oma who, when I was in the ocean and I felt her beside me, same thing. She was having hip pain because she's elderly and she needed pain pills, and I stole her pills also. And then they weren't there when she needed them, and that made me feel like a piece of shit, and like I couldn't explain it to them or talk myself out of it. I wanted them and I took it and I thought I'll deal with the consequences. But then when the consequences came, it made me just feel horrible.
Oh,
I
goodness.
also, yeah, like I said, there's no words to properly convey how it feels, but it makes you feel like a piece of shit. Really, it does.
Mm-hmm.
I also lied to doctors and double dipped at doctors and got more than one prescription for the same issue. This was before the pharmacies were all linked together by the computers,
Mm-hmm.
um, which I got busted on too, because that came into effect and I didn't know it did. But before that, I could like get several prescriptions, and I would do that, which is, well, it's illegal for one, and it's also like, it just creates problems for the doctors. Like, I didn't think anything of their medical license or anything like that, but if they prescribe me something and then another doctor prescribes me the same thing, they can get in trouble for that. But I didn't know that, but I wouldn't have cared. I just wanted the
Mm-hmm.
damn pills. Yeah.
Oh
So,
my goodness.
yeah.
Well, everything you're telling me right now is just bringing to my mind. This morning, I picked up my big book and I was reading from there. And, you know, that book is filled with so many incredible words that were written from 1935. But the
Uh-huh.
section that I read today was, you know, talking about the alcoholic and that there's a solution and that once we as alcoholics or as addicts cross that line into alcoholism and into addiction, there is no going back. We all could have started as moderate drinkers or normal drinkers or, taking a prescription as prescribed.
Yeah.
But once people of our type that have the disease of alcoholism and of addiction cross that line, we can never return to be a moderate drinker again. That line has been crossed. It says we are like
Yeah.
men who have lost their
Right.
limbs and will
Yeah.
never grow new ones. There's no going back.
It's that whole pickle cucumber thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Once you're a
Exactly.
pickle, you can't go back to a cucumber.
That's you're pickled.
You're pickled. Yeah,
Wow.
but and it's funny. It's like, I know it's probably been drilled into a lot of our heads that it doesn't matter how much time you have. Um, like, just because 4 years goes by doesn't mean you're magically cured or healed or something's changed. It's the disease still progresses. Like, and that's what I'll just go back to the beginning of our conversation quickly. Like, a good significant amount of time had gone by, and I had that I had heat stroke, and with good reason. I was in pain, but I mean, in hindsight, I should just have not taken those pills. But because I did, and it started off, I don't know how it started off. I started off taking them responsibly as prescribed, but of course, it triggered the addiction. And then a month later, I was stealing pills. I was
Mm.
stealing morphine pills from a good friend of mine who has them for pain and really needed them. And thank God she didn't need them at that time, but I definitely emptied out her pill bottle because it's triggered the whole thing over again. So
Exactly. And
that's
that
exactly what happened. Yeah.
that brings me to the other point for alcoholics and addicts is that our only defense is against the first drink or the first drug, because once we take one drink or one pill,
Yeah.
it does not matter how many years or how long we've gone without a drink or a drug, our addiction is awakened because we have a disease that wants more and more and more and more, and we have no control. We cannot shut it off. That is our disease and our ism. And we will never go back to being a normie.
I completely agree with that. And I'm a living testament to that,
Sure,
gratefully.
we sure are, Lyer.
Yeah.
Wow. So why don't you tell us then how do you stay clean and sober? Or what are some of the habits? Do you have daily habits? How do you work on your recovery?
Good question. And I love recovery these days, by the way. Like, I love it. I can't get enough of it. So I have people around me who are also in recovery. So although I do have friends who are, earth people or normies, whatever you call them, I have a strong group of people who are also in recovery from alcohol or drugs or whatever. And I'm in contact with them daily. Um, we chat every morning, sometimes for 10 minutes or half an hour. We have a little accountability get together on Zoom.
Nice.
Um, and but I'm in a recovery program, and I do what is suggested to me in the program, and I have a sponsor. I am sponsoring, which I think is hugely rewarding, and I think that is a missing piece. That was a missing piece for me. The sponsoring part is extremely critical in keeping me sober, I believe.
Perfect.
And I pick up the phone if I'm struggling, even if it's like little things. Like, I call people and just get it off my chest, because as soon as it's out in the open, even just the fact that I've said it out loud, it really helps. So I think it's important to have like-minded, recovery-focused people in your life. That works for
Definitely.
me. That works for me, definitely.
Definitely. And, we have to work on we have to put the same amount of effort, in my situation, in my case, into our recovery as we did into drinking and drugging. And for me personally, I drank and drugged for 30 years, but for the last 10 of them, I drank every single day. And I have to put effort into my recovery every single day.
Yeah, yeah, and I agree with that. But the cool thing is, like, I don't know if you feel like this, but I feel like it's not like it's a chore, to live in recovery. It feels really good, and it like makes the day better. It's not like
Oh,
a whole,
exactly.
it's not like a school course that I don't want to do that I have to do. Like, it's really quite wonderful.
Oh, I agree with you
Yeah,
100%. It's not like a to-do list that I have to get done before I can get on with my day. It is, recovery and being clean and
yeah,
sober is joyful. And
yeah,
but yeah, like you, I have to, talk to
yeah,
another alcoholic or an addict every day,
yeah,
and again, not have to, I do, and
yeah,
that's
yeah.
that keeps me going, but it also gives me life. You know, there's so
I
many
agree.
rewards that come back from working on my recovery, and by me
Right. Yeah.
helping another alcoholic or helping an addict, I'm helping myself just as much.
That's exactly true. And I do believe, I mean, I can't speak for anyone else but myself, but I believe there is a spiritual element to recovery, like um,
Mm-hmm.
prayer and meditation. Um, they are great tools for me. And
Yes.
I'm not a religious person, but I do believe in prayer, and I do believe in meditation because it helps me become in tune with myself and the world around me, and puts my consciousness on a higher level because I can't get there by myself. I tried many times to quit drinking and drugging by myself, but I think the spiritual element, as well as in combination with the human being element, the combo, is what really works for me.
Yes, I totally agree. We have to get out of ourselves and believe in a higher power.
Yeah,
And spirituality is not the same as religion. You got to throw that in there too. But yes, that is
absolutely.
a very important part of recovery. And like you said, meditation and prayer are a big part of my recovery as well. And
Yeah,
it's a balancing act. It's not only I just don't drink and drug anymore. That is just the beginning of it. It's really finding balance of serenity, of bringing peace back into your life, of self-care, of physical
yes,
aspects, of the spirituality, of checking in with your fellows and your other friends in recovery. It's really bringing your life into balance is what a lot of it comes
absolutely.
down to.
Absolutely. Yeah, like putting down the drugs and the drinking, like that really is a huge tip of the iceberg, but it is just the tip of the iceberg. Like the rewards I've gotten from being clean and being sober and being in recovery are monumentous. Like I have a beautiful house and a beautiful relationship with my husband, and I have a job I love. I've got good friends. Like uh, none of this would happen if I was still doing what I was doing, and like I connect with people. I can talk and have conversations on levels, on deep, meaningful levels that are rewarding, and they gratify me on a spiritual level, and it's so rewarding to be able to be free of mind and free of body. It's really a beautiful thing that I don't want to take for granted, and I value it highly.
Of course, 100% agreed, my friend. Whew. Wow. Okay, well, before we wrap things up here, why don't you tell if there was somebody out there listening to this show right now that might be struggling in addiction or in alcoholism, and you could reach out with your hand and your voice, what are some tips how would you direct them to get help?
I would tell them to go tell someone that they need help. I would
Perfect.
say it's okay if you need help, and it's okay if you're struggling. Go tell someone about it. Go say, I'm not doing well. I've got an issue and I need some help. Um, because we can get so wrapped up in our heads thinking we have to figure it all out by ourselves, and that is not true. There's people in recovery all over. Like even in my neighborhood, there's like 5 people's houses I could walk to right now that are in recovery. There is help everywhere, but you have to make it known that you need help. You have
Yeah.
to say, I need help, I'm struggling. And if you can just break that ice, um, you'll be surprised about how many hands come reaching out towards you. You just have to make it known that you need some help.
Fantastic. What good advice, Lear. That's exactly it. We have to first admit to ourselves, like, I'm struggling. There's a problem. I can't do this. And like you said, that's excellent but advice. Tell somebody, reach out, because you know what? We are in a day and age where there is literally a community of millions of people in recovery today that were once like us or like that person out there still suffering. Some people that have ended up homeless, that have ended up crawling out of a gutter or out from underneath a bridge, literally,
Mm-hmm.
and have turned their lives around 100%. And we all started from that place of desperation. And yes, you are so right.
Yeah.
It's okay to say, I have a problem. I need help. Please
Yeah.
help me. And That's exactly where you got to start from. Fantastic answer, Lyer.
Thank you.
Oh, well, it's been just a pleasure having you on the show today, and thank you for joining us on Soberoso and sharing our passion for recovery.
Yeah, that's right.
We look forward to having you again on the line now that we've given our viewers and our listeners a little bit of your background. You will be joining us as this show progresses to be my call buddy, where we're going to have open discussions and further conversations with my good friend Lyer, or Michael as you know him.
Thank you very much for having me today. And yeah, what a great thing you are doing. And I hope that our conversation today can help someone or inspire them to, get help if you need it. And don't be embarrassed. Like, who doesn't have everyone needs help in their life sometime. Everyone. So if you need help, just tell someone.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lyer. I love you with all my heart.
I love you too.
At Soberoso, we celebrate many different paths to recovery and are open to discussing all of these options. We are not affiliated with AA nor represent Alcoholics Anonymous in any way, shape, or form. Canadians, this message is for you, to all our families, fellows, and friends who are recovering addicts or alcoholics, or families of, or just know the importance of this cause. We need you to support us and join together and designate the month of September every year as National Recovery Awareness Month. You can help by contacting your local parliament with a simple form found at www.recoverymonthcanada.ca. So please let your vote and voice be heard by saying yes to Motion 40. We need all the support we can get here, fellows. To show our support for this incredible cause, all of our guests on the Soberoso podcast will be Canadians for the entire month of September. So please vote yes to Motion 40 and join us in sharing our passion for recovery. We invite you to reach out to us. The best place to find all of our contact info and the projects we are involved in is at www.soberoso.com. You will find our Soberoso shop on our website, where we sell recovery-related merch. And you can join us in sharing our passion for recovery by wearing your sobriety with our His and Hers t-shirts, hoodies, and tank tops. You will also find written recovery stories with before and after pictures, Zoom meetings, and you can listen to our podcast directly from our website. This podcast is a labor of love and passion that takes many hours of work to bring to you. If you like what we are doing and feel moved to do so, there is also a red donate button on our website called Show Us Some Love. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Soberoso. If you would like to be a guest on the show or get in touch with us, please send us an email at info@soberoso.com. We love to hear from our listeners, so if you would like to ask us a question, suggest a topic for discussion, or leave us a word of encouragement, you can send us a voice message by going to Anchor and using the Send Message button on the Soberoso podcast page.